Hey, welcome to our Sunday gathering, where we connect around the globe to explore the mysteries of the ages revealed in plain, everyday language.
Experience and participate in powerful, practical teachings and discussions centered around the next age of Christianity, where the entire body is alive and functioning for ultimate impact in the world.
So we are family doing kingdom business.
With practical spirituality with powerful heavenly encounters.
So this is a place where you get to come and share and interact and grow with other kingdom-minded people.
And enjoy unique worship experiences that is shifting atmospheres.
So come and join us.
All right, welcome to our Kingdom Equipping Center Sunday morning gathering. It's good to be here with you. Gil is sailing. The ocean's blue. So I'm going to be solo for the next couple of weeks. And interestingly enough, even Norman, who usually helps me from Africa, if you've heard about the internet troubles they're having over there, he's not able to help out much today. So we are just going to trust the Lord is working all things for good. And we're going to have a great time today exploring relationships. And so I'm going to start with announcements, and we really only have one main announcement, and that is our Ultimate Impact Retreat, April 11 to 14. And so just want to really encourage all of you to sign up as soon as possible. It will be limited how many people we can have. This is in our own home, which I love even more so because we can be personable and face-to-face and have our meals together, engage together, just explore the Lord in powerful ways. There is something about when we meet in person that is so much fun. So please sign up at our website, kingdomequippingcenter.com, and you can look under the events section, and we will look forward to seeing you then. All right, and since we're just kind of doing things differently today, we're actually going to reverse the order of things. So we break out of our stuck patterns of we always do it this way, we always do it this way. And so when I was looking at the teaching, I just felt that it would make more sense to actually do our engagement time at the end because of what we're talking about. So we're talking about relationships. And so we want to do some teaching first. So those who come late because they think they're skipping the worship part, you'll just have to listen to the replay to get the full teaching. And some of this stuff is not new. We've talked a fair amount about relationship here. That's a big message of ours. But I think we're going to be exploring some unique portions of that as we look. We've been in this series looking at Neshama, what that is, what is Ruach, how that fits in with our body. And so we're going to jump right in. It is all about relationship. God is a family, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And that's why we often call the Trinity the true family. And the reason is it expresses that relationship. If we just say Jesus, that's great. If we just say Father, that's great. Holy Spirit, that's great. But each one of us connect in different ways to each one of them. So if we have trauma around father issues, if I used the term father all the time, that may trigger some people. And so the word true family kind of embodies this relational family connection that we were intended to be connected with. Now, of course, if you had a traumatic family, it's possible that the word family triggers you, but there really aren't any words that are going to trigger no one. So we're doing the best we can to express that. True relationship cannot be forced. It is a mutual choosing. And so it is our neshama, the image of God that he breathed into us when he first created us, that gives us that ability to develop close, intimate, lasting relationships. And then I love the name of God, of Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. And that is so significant. And so we often look at the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so in this area of relationship, under the tree of life, everything is relational, everything that we do. Now, this doesn't mean that we just allow everybody into every part of us. That is unconditional love that we want to operate from, but it's okay and healthy to have healthy boundaries. And so, from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, everything is limited or conditional relationship, no relationship, or anti relationship. And so, just helpful to kind of understand that as we walk this out. And so, we were created because we want to talk about this holistic part of us. We have our physical body, our brain, and then we have neshama and ruach, which is kind of the equivalent of soul and spirit, but they're all integrated into one. And so understanding how even our body functions relationally is important. And so our brain was created with relational circuits to help us to connect with others in love. But trauma and pain close off those circuits and prevent us from connecting to others and God. And so just that's kind of what we're going to be talking a little bit about is these relational circuits, how they function and what shuts them off, what opens them up, and how we can walk this out. So if we just take a moment and think about our circuits, these are some questions that came from this book, Joyful Journey, Listening to Emmanuel by Dr. E. James Wilder. And this is where we're closing off our circuits, is if I just want to make a problem, a person, or a feeling go away, then that's closing off those circuits. If I don't want to listen to what others feel or say, that's closing off the circuits. If my mind is locked onto something upsetting, that's going to close those relational circuits. If I don't want to connect to somebody who I usually like, that means some circuits are closed. If I just want to get away, fight, or freeze versus calm and connect, then my circuits are closed. If I just want to interrogate, judge, or try to fix others, I'm in that shutdown with those circuits. And so this was an interesting statement that to me is so powerful, is when our circuits are off, we will do the right thing instead of restore relationship. And so that's kind of when we switch out to the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's because I can't connect relationally. My circuits are closed, so I'm just going to do the right thing. And I can justify and think I'm doing something good, when in actuality, I'm just closing down. And so I really honor Gil in sharing let go and flow. But I would say it's not everything. There's nothing that works for everything except for Jesus, okay? And so we can have these phrases, let go and flow. The problem is if that is a relational circuit closing, and well, I just want to make a problem, person, or feeling go away, so I'm going to let go and flow. I'm not really dealing with the issue. I'm just spiritual bypassing, okay? And so that's why it's important to understand let go and flow is an internal thing with the Lord, and it's not about closing our relational circuits down, because we can let go and flow, and we can actually feel better, but our relationship circuits are off. But we feel a relief because we've just kind of pushed it away, and we can think, well, I got to some place of peace. But the reality is we haven't dealt with the root of the issue, and it's just going to surface again. And we can continue to let go and flow with our circuits off all day long and all month long and all year long, but it's not going to help us to connect relationally. And so just important to understand those differentiations about where our relational circuits are at. And so in this series, we've been looking at the body, the neshama, consciousness, and ruach equaling us. And one illustration of trying to understand this is computer language. Our body is like the hardware. The neshama is like firmware, which I didn't even know what that was. I had to look it up because I'm not super computer techie. But firmware is a basic software from which then you get specific software to work together to accomplish stuff. And so the neshama and the ruach work together in that kind of software category in the invisible realm. So our mind, our consciousness, we can't find it in our physical body, but our physical body is here. So our mind and our body, or our neshama and our body, are separate but very integrated. And it's important that we understand this, because we can come from different things and go, it's body only. If I just fix my body, then everything else will be solved. Or other people focus on the consciousness or the mind. If I just fix the mind, then everything will be fixed. But it's these both together. Again, it's a paradox of mind and body working together. And so explaining that in relationships, there's things going on in our body. It's not just our mind and emotions, but it's together working these things out. And so just to understand a little bit about this from a physical perspective of our body and our brain, is the right side of our brain, there's a control center that deals with relational stuff. And there's 4 levels to it, and that's what we're kind of going to look at today. Relational attachment, personal reaction, relational synchronization, and identity. And so when we can understand, we're looking at body and neshama together and how they function together in this process of relationship. So that top level, relational attachment, the physical parts of our brain that it's engaging is the thalamus and the basal ganglion. Now, you don't have to memorize that, just know, if some of you who that's really interesting and fascinating, you like those details, you can go explore that. The rest of us, it's kind of going over our head. We're just like, okay, whatever. But relational attachment takes place when we are attuned to one another. And God demonstrates this attunement with us, and we'll share some examples from the Israelites and Hagar in just a moment. But the basis of it is, I see you, I hear you, I understand, including the hard stuff, and I'm glad to be with you, and I have solutions for challenges, confident hope. And so you see this very significantly in the bonding that happens when a baby is first born, is they're meant to physically and emotionally, that neshama and body, engage with mom in ways with the eyes, with the touch, and with that synchronization that we'll talk about in just a minute. And so it's a very special bonding time that God intended for us to be able to develop secure attachments. Now, the problem is probably the majority of us did not have that. The way modern medicine works, the baby's born, they take the baby away, they clean the baby up, which actually, God had all kinds of things on the baby when it's born that is meant to be part of that bonding process, and they wash it all away. And then if there's medical complications or a C-section, then there can be a whole lot of other sets where that bonding doesn't take place. Now, the good news is, in God, nothing is ever fully lost. Is the true family, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, want to make that up to us if we did not receive it. And a lot of people don't get that. They're kind of like, well, if you miss that bonding segment, too bad for you. You just got to tough it out. And our God is not like that. He provides that restoration at every single level. And to me, that is good news. And so he wants you to know that he sees you, that he hears you, he understands, he's glad to be with you, and he has solutions for everything you're going through. And this to me is really the heart of relationship with God. So much of the time we've been taught in the church, you've got to, praise and worship the Lord. You've got to do this, you got to do that, and you got to read your Bible. And I think all of those things are good. They're awesome and needed. But if you're not attuned, you're just doing it from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. If your relational circuits are closed, it's just works and it doesn't have meaning. It's not going to impact you the way that God intends you to. And so here in scripture, we see in Exodus 3:7-8, where God is attuning to the Israelites. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. For I know their sorrows. So I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up from that land to a good and large land, to a land flowing with milk and honey. I didn't include here, but also the story of Hagar. And she is one of the ones who, came up with a name for God, the God who sees me. God, I think it's Elroy, the God who sees me. And so when you think about Egyptian slave that was part of a messy situation, and yet God cared about her. God cares about every single human being equally. And so this could be a whole teaching in itself on attachment styles, this kind of, but just to kind of give you a little bit of this, we teach this in Transformations. But there are 4 different styles of attachment or that bonding type of thing, whether it took place or whether it didn't. And so the first one is that secure attachment, where a baby is secure and loved, that bonding happens. And even though there might be some challenging things that happen, mom and dad are safely there at all times to nurture and provide. And they are securely attached. They know who they are and all of those kinds of things. Again, probably most of us didn't have that in our background, and it's okay because God has solutions. The second one is the avoidant attachment. And this is where, because of trauma or mom and dad weren't there, we develop coping skills or defense mechanisms of avoidance. And this was my predominant in this. I've got good girl and strong girl, and I'm just going to be strong and powerful in my own strength, and I can do it. I'm an amazing Christian, and I'm just going to gut through all of those challenges, and I don't need anybody. And it's actually hard in relationships because both Gil and I tend to be avoidant, which we just tend to do our own thing instead of emotionally connecting. And so we are having to work on that as we speak, because we don't have perfect relationships. None of us do. We're all in process and all in a journey. And so in that place of avoidant, when Gil and I have talked about it, is like when we first married, he wanted to be my hero, to come in and save the day and help me. But because I was avoidant, I was like, I don't need your help. I've got this. I'm a powerful woman and I don't need you. Now I didn't speak those words verbally, but my actions and responses indicated that, to where finally Gil goes, well, I'm not going to try to bless her because she doesn't need me. And so that's the tragedy of a lot of relationships, is because we have these unfortunate attachment styles going on, and we miss each other. And so then the anxious attachment is kind of the opposite, and it's the needy. I need you, I need you, I need you, I need you, I need you. And it's looking for people to fulfill that. And so you probably know some people in your life that are that way. And again, when we understand this, it helps us to have greater compassion, because their hearts are crying out. I need to be seen. I need to be heard. Doesn't anybody understand? And our tendency in life is to go, oh, they're so needy. We're just going to push them off over there. They're just too much work. We don't want to, we're going to go somewhere where people are more mature. But it's not. It's all different attachment styles. And then the disorganized attachment style is usually in complex trauma where actually you have both of these going at the same time. And so it's been interesting for me in my journey because of the complex trauma that I went through. I am actually disorganized attachment style, but I manifest as avoidant because that was part of my programming to be a competent Christian leader who could manage everything and all of that. Well, on this healing journey, I'm starting to get in touch with those needy parts. And it's probably one of the hardest things because I want to go, shut up, get out of here. I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to need, you know. But I'm learning to allow the Lord to come into that deep place, that needy place that is there, and to be loved by the family and to get that stability that I need on my journey. And so that's the first level, is where attachment is happening or not happening. The second level in our physical brain is personal reaction, and this has to do with the amygdala, which probably we're more familiar with that. If you study trauma or understand PTSD, you get that the amygdala is that fight, flight, freeze, please reaction that we have. And the thing about the amygdala is it works before thought and emotion. Okay? And it's evaluating three things. Is it good? Is it bad? Or is it scary? And that's its job, to immediately begin flooding us with what we need in an emergency situation. And so this is where those relational circuits are going to either be opened or shut. Because if my amygdala says that something is bad or scary, those relational circuits are going closed. They're not going to be open. And particularly for someone who has had lots and lots and lots of trauma, almost everything triggers, and those relational circuits are often stay closed. And our body doesn't know how to shut off that fight, flight, freeze, because it's always in this state. Oh no, what happens? Now, if we are met with that love and attunement, then our amygdala and our body can calm down. So it's interesting with our granddaughter, Eden, when she falls down and trips or falls or hurts herself, she's immediately looking to see, either myself or her parents, who's safe out there to connect with. And if we synchronize with her, which we'll talk about next, in that place of attunement, I see you, I hear you, I understand, it's okay, we're going to get a Band-Aid, or whatever it is, then she can very quickly come back to a state of peace and joy, because that is how our brain is designed, to be in a continual state of peace and joy. That's the way God created us. Now, if we've experienced a lot of trauma, all of that is shut down, and our joy capacity is very shut down. But as we learn to receive attunement from God, and then learn how to be in safe community where we're receiving this from others, then, our body gets to relax, and that attunement can happen. And I can go, oh, I can be safe here. Oh, I can be myself. I don't have to put on a front. I don't have to pretend. All of those kinds of things. But again, if we have a lot of painful experiences, they get stuck in that amygdala and keep that fight, flight, freeze, please going and going and going and going. Again, God has solutions with that attuning and synchronization. So the third level in our brain where that relational synchronization happens is the cingulate cortex. And this is where experiencing God and community present in our pain, that we are seen, heard, understood, and that He's glad to be with us and has solutions, that He's not ashamed of us or embarrassed of us or condemning us, that He gets us and He has solutions. There's a validation that goes, oh, okay, I'm okay. I can get through this, those types of things. And so I I am so delighted in our community, both here Sunday mornings and in my transformation groups, because I see this regularly. We had a group yesterday, and there was someone who came on that had had some very traumatic things happen right then, and, in tears and so on. And we were immediately able to come and attune to her. And I didn't have to say anything because the rest of the group was coming in and chiming in. And even afterwards in the group community, they were writing beautiful messages and notes to her. And in that process, she was able to get out of that trauma much more quickly than than any other way. So if you were raised in a home where there was verbal, emotional, or physical or sexual abuse, where it was, shut up, don't cry, don't do that, you're okay, just get over it. Those kinds of things where you were not attuned, that brought a lot of deep trauma inside. And even in the church, we teach a lot of that spiritual bypassing. Get over it, praise the Lord in everything, used wrongly, let go and flow. And we may just kind of get our defenses up and, okay, I'm going to be okay, I'm going to be okay. But the reality is our relational circuits are closed and we're operating out of defense systems and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And it's not healthy. And so then the fourth level is identity. And this happens in the orbital prefrontal cortex. And this is where, when those attachments are there, when I've been attuned and my amygdala is calmed down and goes, oh, this is good, this is safe. Okay, my relational circuits are open. Now I can be calm and connected. I know who I am. And I'm able to withstand challenging times and different stuff that comes. This is where we develop joy capacity, the center in our brain that can continue to grow. And so it's okay if you don't have very much joy capacity, if you've had a lot of trauma, because God wants to attune with you. And in this community, we want to attune with you so that your joy capacity can expand. And that early trauma tends to leave us with not knowing who we are. And so there's all kinds of, every seminar you can go to about how to learn your identity and all of that. But when you understand it from a physical perspective and an emotional, spiritual perspective, both of these coming together, this is how we get to know who we really are, is in community where we have attunement, where we are receiving it first from God, and then we're receiving it from one another. And so this is why so many of us have been damaged in the typical church, where everything is from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, where we're arguing over who's right, who's wrong, instead of going, I'm curious about why you believe that way. Let's have a conversation. I might believe totally differently, but I want to understand. I want to hear you. I want to see you. I want to understand where you're coming from and why you believe that. And when someone is attuned like that, then we can work through any differences, either in doctrine or relational issues, when we're able to come to that place of attunement with one another. And so learning to attune with God starts in that relationship with God, our perfect example. Now, it's hard because we can't, in the natural, see him with our physical eyes the majority of the time, unless he chooses a sovereign encounter. And so a lot of times we have blocks with our relational circuits closed through trauma, that we feel like, I can't hear from God. I can't hear from God. I don't feel him. Well, it's not that God isn't there. He is there. The issue is our relational circuits are closed. And so he is talking, but we can't hear it. And so I highly recommend 2 different books that talk about this two-way journaling, this joyful journey that I've just been reading that's been delightful, listening to Emmanuel. And then the 4 Keys to Hearing God's Voice by Mark Verkler, which is what I had long time ago, which I am so grateful for that God had me start there. Now, I will say that when this first came about, I was not a journaler. I did not write things down. I was afraid that if I wrote something personal down, somebody would find it and read it, and I'd be in trouble. And I was very, very resistant. And I was grateful that it was a conference and we were kind of made to do it because everybody else is sitting there writing during this exercise time. And so I have to do it. And eventually it's become a habit. And it is so powerful in my restoration and recovery from the trauma I went through. I don't know if I could do it without that. Now, there are other pieces of the puzzle. And so other people may drawing, coloring, art, that creative expression may be a way also that they can hear and communicate from God. And so I'm with Transformations, we have someone who didn't connect in journaling and was like, this is the way I connect in drawing. And so she's developed, we call them doodle dives, and because it's not that you have to be this perfect artist, but just marks on a page. And so for those of you in Transformations, that is available. If you're not in Transformations and you're interested in that, let me know, and we might figure out a way to make that available as a separate product if you're interested, because there's multiple different ways of connecting that God has for us. And so if journaling just does not work for you, the Lord has other options. This is just the way that I've found works best for me to be able to hear God. And it's helpful in this place of it not being, okay, I've got to praise the Lord. I've got to do all these things. You know, when I start my journaling, my day, I go, here I am, true family. Please help me. Now, this is a big step for me because remember, I was that avoidant style. I would never even ask God for help because I could handle things on my own. And so I've learned and am learning to be able to connect and to ask for help from the Lord. And I'm gradually learning to ask help from other people. I still have a ways to go in that. So anyway, just encourage you that it is just coming before the true family and going, do you see me? Do you hear me? Do you understand what I'm going through? And if that's my first part of journaling, I've just got to say, I'm feeling horrible. Or I had this horrible dream and I'm struggling and I don't know what this means. And God, are you there? Can you help me? That's the place to start because I need to be attuned so that my relational circuits will open up. And so in that two-way journaling, when I stop sharing what I need to share and I just wait and listen to what bubbles up the first thing, and they're saying, hey, we see you. Now, they don't say that all the time. You don't have to use that specific language, but you know, the type of language that helps you feel like you're seen, like you're known. That's what I'm talking about. And so then we get to learn how to attune with others. And this, I believe, is living from the tree of life, learning how to have those relational circuits open, taking the time to see, hear, understand, and delight in others, and stand in agreement for God's solutions for any challenges. And then slowing down to care rather than being focused on task orientation. And this was a big thing for me because that avoidant stuff, I was a very good type A personality, task oriented. Let's just get things done. Let's not waste time talking. Let's just get something done. And it seems righteous because you're doing a lot of ministry, getting a lot of things done, but it's missing the heart of God, which is relational. And so as I was just pondering this week, some things about salvation came up, and I've been grieved in this movement. There have been a lot of people who have dismissed salvation, like it's really no longer needed because God's Spirit is already present in every person. So, we don't have to evangelize. But when we look at salvation as relationship, attuning with God, we understand things from a different perspective. When we believe the word of God, the scriptures, for if you publicly declare with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will experience salvation. The heart that believes in him receives the gift of the righteousness of God, and then the mouth gives thanks to salvation. For the scriptures encourage us with these words, everyone who believes in him will never be disappointed. So if you look at these words from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then your perspective is, oh, then we've got to do this and we've got to do that. You've got to do it right. You have to say the magic words. When you look at these verses through the eyes of relationship, the tree of life and attunement, you're like, oh, salvation is about attuning with God and being seen, heard, understood, and he's got solutions. I will never be disappointed if I believe in him. And again, not this, I've got to figure it out. I've got to work up my faith. I got to believe properly. No, but I want those relational circuits open. And then I'm going to understand what's going on, and I'm not going to be disappointed because I know he's got a good plan of restoration that's coming. And so this no separation that we've taught, even, in Ultimate Impact, does not mean that everyone is saved. It means that God is always present. Salvation, wholeness, healing, deliverance comes when we choose to attune with him in relationship. And so this changes the scenario because now there is a reason to share this good news with others, because everyone on this planet has got some level of trauma and pain, and they're crying out to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. And the unfortunate thing is that the communities that do that the best, in quotes, is a lot of times the gay community or the trans community. That's where people feel like they belong because they do work on attunement. And that opens up those relational circuits and people feel like, wow, I belong here. Whereas in the church, because there was so much from the tree of knowledge of good and evil and the relational circuits are closed, people don't feel that belonging or that level of identity. And so when we understand this, it shifts things. When we're dealing with people who aren't saved, it's not that we're going to strong arm them or try to get them to believe certain things here. But we have this incredible good news to say, guess what? There is a God who sees us. He hears us. He's glad to be with us. He's not condemning you or judging you in negative ways. He's judging you to life. He has solutions for everything you're going through. This is good news. Let's share this good news. Okay? So, want to do an activation for our time, and this is why we delayed doing this, is I want us just to have some time when we're practicing this, where we're attuning to God. And so it's just this simple place of connecting with the true family, whatever that looks like for you, seeing, sensing, feeling. And if you feel like your relational connections are closed, there may be a good reason. There may be parts of you that feel like God didn't come through for me. I'm disappointed and I'm angry. And so I don't even believe that Bible verse you just said that says those who believe on him won't be disappointed, because I am disappointed. And so just understand, if you're willing to just bring this before him, he's willing to deal with those issues. And so being able to ask these questions of yourself as you're processing, do you feel seen by God? Why or why not? Now, I know all of us can from our head go, of course, God sees everybody. But do you feel that from your heart? Do you feel that he sees you right now in the struggles, challenges, or joys you're going through? Do you feel heard by God? Why or why not? Do you feel understood by God? Why or why not? Do you feel that the true family delights in you? Why or why not? Do you believe that they have solutions for the challenges in your life? Why or why not? Those are some big things to wrestle through, and you don't have to get through all of it, but it's starting the conversation. And ultimately, hopefully, at the end of the time, as you are experiencing being seen, heard, loved, delighted, and understood, celebrate being loved. Now, I was hoping that we could, I could keep this slide up and we could have the music at the same time. But because of the challenges and difficulties that we're going through with the internet and other things, I'm not able to do that. So this slide is on the app. If you have the app, you can go to the connect button, click on, I better do it myself so I tell you right, because otherwise that may not work. So yeah, on the Sundays button and then teaching notes, and then click on the teaching notes for today. At the very end is this slide. So if that helps you, that's great. Otherwise, we're just going to put the music on, and I'm just going to let it go for 5 to 10 minutes. I may or may not say much in, because I just really want you to be able to have that connection time with God. And we will end with communion, and then we'll open it up for conversation. So I hope that that works for you all. Okay. All right, here we go. Jesus, do you see me? Do you care? Jesus, we thank you that it's your delight to attune with us, that we are seen, that we are heard, that you love to be with us, that you understand our pain, and you alone have the solutions. So we just thank you for meeting us right here. And from this place, we just want to step into communion with you, to take it to an even deeper level of our relationship with you. That you are the very one who sustains us, body, soul, and spirit. That you are acquainted with our sorrows, our pain. You're acquainted with our weaknesses, and you're not ashamed to call us your family. And so in this place, we just choose to open up our relational circuits with you, because you are safe. You are the bread of life. And so just as we need physical food daily, we need you, your attunement, your gaze upon us, your ear open to our cry. And so we just take this bread and we say yes to this life with you, full and free, coming fully alive as you created us to be. Take and eat. And as we take the cup, we receive your very life, Jesus, into every cell of our body, into our neshama and ruach, for total transformation. Take and drink. Just take some deep breaths and just relax. Just receive the fullness that they have for us today. All right. I'm going to open it up for questions and comments. We haven't figured out how to gracefully fade the music out so it's not abrupt. But anyway, I hope this was a powerful and meaningful time of attuning with God. And this is the time when we get to attune with one another. We get to be seen and heard and be understood and loved in community. So feel free to share comments, questions, share your experience during that time. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, write it in comments. Go ahead, Maxine.
Yes, I'm sort of into computers, but not really all that in depth. But what I saw was there is a surge protector, and we are connected to that. Well, I am anyway, connected to that surge protector with others. Okay, I gotta turn a light on here. With others being able to plug into my area of power. And they also have a surge protector. Each protector has an on and off switch for those connected with us and us with them. I can plug in a USB port with several inputs available, and each one of those can be turned on and off. So it is very intricate.
Wow, that is beautiful, Maxine. Thank you for sharing that. I love the imagery. Thank you. All right, Marlene, go ahead. You're muted. There we go.
I want to say how grateful I am for this opportunity. I've been looking for groups and Christians who can be that transparent and honest with each other. Been a Christian 40 years and have not found anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not be surprised, if this is the story of most people. So thank you very much. But anyhow, I was reminded during that time how the Lord did take me into those places and still does, and built that place of safety. And I would say that one of the biggest keys that I'm most grateful for, this is with him I'm talking about, or them as you're referring to, which I haven't really experienced people who relate to God as family. Certainly Father God or Jesus or Holy Spirit individually is far more comfortable for me because of my triggers with family. Mm-hmm. So my family today, 7 of my siblings out of 8, my natural family, have all become Christians. Mm. But I wouldn't put one of those people in that safe category that you're talking about, because they have allowed that healing process to happen. And I also mix a lot in prophetic circles. And I was reminded of a conversation I had with somebody yesterday. And there's a lot of very powerful prophetic people in the world. And I guess for me, I do see a lot of that stepping over who people are authentically into being activated spiritually, almost as a escape. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I have wondered if it will ever happen, and I actually know people who call themselves Christian who have gone to New Age because they're far more authentic in areas. Very, very, very common. Some even left or calling themselves leaving Christianity because of the lack of authenticity relationally has not been around. It hasn't existed as far as I know. So very grateful. So my experience when I asked the questions is, do I feel seen, heard, celebrated and understood? Was an enormous explosive joy of yes.
I love it.
So I look forward to the opportunity to now continue to deepen relationships with other safe people, to allow that authenticity to be reciprocated, because it very often is not.
Yeah. So beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marlene. And we're so glad for you to be part of our community. Look forward to getting to know you more. All right, Mimi, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Mine, just a couple quick things. It's actually going back to when you were talking about separation, and just I jotted down this phrase. No separation means God is always available for relationship with us, even if we're not interested in relationship with God.
Yes.
And I've thought of that, but I had never really crystallized it. And then during the meditation or encounter time, I think one of the questions was, or one of the statements was that the family always has solutions to our challenges. And I have a few challenges.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is an answer to one of them, but some of you know that I need to find ways to generate income remotely because of my situation. And I actually got an idea for a workshop, like a one afternoon type workshop that is out of my skill set based on stuff I used to present. And I think that the trends and things that I'm hearing and seeing with people, at least ones I'm in contact with, I think it's something that would really be a benefit to people. So I jotted down, I basically got an outline for the whole workshop during this engagement time. And I'm like, it just is encouraging to me because my challenges have been so like, who can survive this?
Yes.
Well, I'm still here. So when I get a tangible, that's what I love about God. Like, I'm a very mystical person. I know people don't like that word. I love that word because I have my own, it means what it means to me. It means that I actually believe I can have an encounter and relationship with God.
Yes.
And it's real. So we've got like the kind of woo-woo stuff, but I also love God's such a great strategist. And I've experienced that part of God for years. And the strategy part of God is very, what we would call practical, applicable to the way that we live in this 3-dimensional realm. And I haven't had a lot of breakthrough strategy from God for me personally in this season. And this is one of the first in a long time. So
Wow.
I'm excited about it. And any of you can hold me to it, to following through, because I think it's a God idea. So thanks for listening.
Awesome. I love that God would answer right in the middle of everything. Beautiful. All right, Sheila, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Once again for a lovely experience. I was asking, found myself fighting some of the ideas in the initial presentation. I said, why am I fighting this? What's this all about? Because I knew the Gil's Let Go and Flow really meant a lot to me, because it meant getting out of your head brain and into your heart brain. And so I'm wondering, well, why am I fighting this? Because everybody isn't looking at that piece. So this is obviously, there's good in this because you've directed it. So help me to understand it. And so as we went further, we started, Yeshua was there and we were sitting on the dock with our feet in the adamantine waters. Father was there, and actually the master architect even came on the dock with us and started showing me that what the early presentation was about was describing the process when there's imbalance, and imbalance between the giving and the taking,
yes,
between individuals and relationship, and using the brain correlates of that, which of course I've studied in the past. And I thought, wow, it's so amazing, because when I woke up this morning, the first thing I saw was the face of David Kaiser, who was a fellow researcher and one of the, people, pioneers in neurofeedback, learning to change the circuitry of the brain through our own consciousness. And as you guys know, I was involved in all that like 50 years ago. And it's sort of moved past that into this other space. And now it was just kind of shown to me through the communion this time, which has been a journey that I know I was supposed to share. Where last time I talked about the communion being shared with my higher selves, and this time the communion was shared with the cells within my body, where they all had an opportunity to make a choice to accept or not. And the fullness of the body part needing to be a piece that we don't neglect.
Yes.
And the whole concept of cellular salvation and the cell's consciousness making a decision for Christ seems to have been left out of the dialogue in the church. And so as I saw that, it was the first time I really saw in action the giving and the taking, where the giving was coming from Yeshua and Father between the bread and the wine, and the receiving was with the cells, and it was in balance.
Wow.
And the whole sacred architecture of that balance, and the 153 and the 306 being the mathematical equivalence of what forms the shape of the fish. And it's a perfection. And, gematria comes to 9 and so on, but that perfectness. So I was shown all of this, and in the water this week, the life, Father called it the flower of water life that he gave to me. And that was incorporated into the wine this time. So now we've got both the bread and the wine also incorporating these pieces, and the cells participating in balance. And it's like it was showing me all the things that you were talking about, Adina, the balance, where balance is off. That's what they're seeing. So I know we're still in a state where we have to balance between, like, our brain is connected to the matrix. It's basically the firmware for it. And the heart brain is connected to the spirit. But we still have to find a livable balance until we make the complete transition. So that's kind of what happened.
Thank you for sharing, Sheila. Appreciate that. Daniel, go ahead.
Thank you so much for this teaching. Am I on?
Yep, you're there.
Okay. I was seeing somebody else's picture. Or non-picture. The attachment styles are making a whole lot of sense. To what hasn't been working relationally. And so I know God gets it. There are days when I wonder about it. There's been a lot of days when I wondered if he was coming through self-employed financially. And the enemy kept throwing it at me, God's not caring, he's not involved, or, whatever. And, just try to use that to say, he's not taking care of you. And this week I got the largest landscape job I've ever gotten in my life.
Awesome. So glad, Daniel. That's great.
And I think he wants more than what I contracted with him on Friday.
Wow.
And that's a huge answer to prayer.
Yes.
And it underlines his love and his care, and then he does get it. And we started in with those questions, and I'm crying for the first time in 2 forevers.
Awesome.
And
beautiful.
Just Jesus going, I do see you.
Yes.
I do have this. And with the anxious attachment part of the style, is like, I keep seeing all the stuff going on around in the world, what the governments are doing, and
Mhm.
it's very evil, and it's straight from the evil one. And he's the source of it.
Mhm.
And if you look at that stuff with much regularity, you can be very traumatized and afraid.
Yes.
And he's been telling me to quit looking at it, and it's just been extremely hard. But I think it's because of previous trauma.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if I'm safe or not.
Yeah.
And he's telling me this morning,
Yep.
I've got this, and you know that I'm bigger than the evil one, and all that flows out of the evil one. And
Yeah.
so you're in a totally safe place, even in the middle of everything that's going on around you. I know how to protect you. You're in shalom. You be in joy, and I've got this. And even if they try to throw a directed energy weapon at my house and incinerate it at 1,000,000 degrees, God can shut that down, because the curse without a cause does not a lie. And he is my protector, and he's bigger than all that garbage.
Yep.
So no matter what's going on in this world, he's got this. And that's one thing he said again twice this morning. I've got this. And so I've got some relational things to grow through out of the trauma.
Yeah.
To change my attachment style.
Yep.
To secure.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to that. And you sharing this morning gives some understanding that will help make that possible, to keep things on both ends working.
Good.
And God is
Awesome.
good all the time. Thank you.
So good, Daniel. We're just all celebrating with you on all of those levels. So thank you for sharing. Really appreciate that. All right, Dave, go ahead.
Yes. I wanted to comment a little bit on really what Marlene brought up. And it relates to, John likes to call it finding your tribe.
Mhm.
And we have come to this place because we're Christ seekers.
Mhm.
And we're trying to find where he's leading us. Really, we're seeking him.
Mhm.
We think it's other things, but it's really him that we look for. And the way we arrived here, I heard it explained like we're dialing a radio dial, trying to tune into something that resonates with us. And we get things that clash. No, that's not it. But often we stay on the same station hoping they'll play something we like. And that's not the way to go. That we need to keep dialing until we hit that frequency, spiritually speaking, that resonates with our heart, because we're really seeking Christ, and we're seeking truth, we're seeking love. And when our heart recognizes that, when we arrive there, we stay there.
Yeah.
And sometimes he'll move us in another direction if that's not resonating. But we need to follow our heart, which is really the frequency of love. And as we come into this, he's tuning us, and we identify and resonate with the Lord through one another. So I think that's the way I see it right now. And it'll change. He'll change us, and as he's done with us in the past. We didn't identify it, but all of us have been through different movements and different things. And so there may become a time when this movement changes and we change with it, or we change separate from this movement, but it's a movement. I like that term, because there's a continual flow, and we need to be in that flow. And I think for us right now, this is the flow that God has us in, and we are being tuned as we minister one to another, and the Lord comes through.
So good. Thank you, Dave. I love that. Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, great message again. That I really love this image bearer message that you've been doing the last couple of weeks. Not that I don't like others, it's just that this one's really hitting the spot with me. And again, right where we are. And so first off, Daniel, wonderful news, blessings to that financial blessing and all the hard work that you'll have to do to make it happen. But beautiful. And again, God gives us things and responsibilities and duties, and that's wonderful that you'll be able to take care of that. But when you were saying some of that stuff in the world systems and the good and the evil, I feel that God actually has me in tune with those things because he wants me to be aware of the world systems and be able to see through some of the things so that we can encourage one another.
Yes.
But this week I was listening to something, and I really got some people understand this term, they go black pilled. There's white pills, black pills, red pills, blue pills, all that kind of stuff. Well, I kind of got black pilled with one of the news things that I was seeing, and it kind of put me down for about an hour or so. And I reached out to my brother because he's in tune with the same people that I listen to and things. And he goes, "Oh, you're listening to the wrong, you listen to the wrong message right now." And he's really not I think he's a believer in some ways, probably more like my father. His comes through his animals. He's a herdsman. He has goats and other animals that he takes care of. And so he understands the Father's love through care and giving and managing his herd and so on in the land. But so I was talking with him, and it was after a couple conversations, it was just texting. It's like, "Oh, you're right. I just looked at that completely wrong, because this will work out in God's favor," which we already know these things. But when we hear this, like, well, is this never going to get fixed? Are we never going to overcome these, blah, blah, blah. And so I realize we're all going through these black pill moments as we are being awakened to the fact that God is in control. And when all we have to do is turn that, like I think what Dave was saying, we just turn that frequency one more notch, another notch. And it's like, oh, I see what this message is sending, but God has another message that's being done. And it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. Even, and I'll just use one as an example, the whole trans community stuff. There is a beauty in there that is going to come through, that is going to transform the way we see things and need to see things. And just love, everyone. And again, I don't care for that term anymore where we say, "Oh, we love the sinner but hate the sin."
Yeah.
I think it's different now. There's something more going on than that term. But
Yes.
blessings to everyone, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Larry. That's so good. And it is true. It's this learning to see the beauty of God in each person, no matter what is going on, and that God has a restorative purpose. And so we can trust God, even in the midst of messiness, and even if we don't agree with the particular path that they're taking, we still see the heart of God for them. And that's what we're able to zone in on instead of all of this other stuff. All of this other stuff will take care of itself when that person knows that they are loved and you attune with them. So really good stuff. All right, Jeff, go ahead.
Hi, Daniel. First of all, I wanted to say I was praying for you since you told me that you wanted, you had some financial concerns, business concerns, landscaping that you wanted to do, and then other things to bring in income to transition into. And I'd been praying, not fasting and praying, but I'd been praying periodically, wholeheartedly for that to happen. So I'm glad to hear that happen for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. This looks good, this attuning thing. I'd never heard it taught like this before. I'm going to give it, Adina, I'm going to go ahead and give the transformations a go ahead, unless I've been wrong and God is still telling me, no, that's not how I'm healing you or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's it.
Good place to learn. Thank you, Jeff. Go ahead, Marlene.
I was just wanted to bounce off something that one of you have just said. I'm sorry, I've forgotten which one it was, about the fact the trans community, much like the homosexual community, I do wonder if some of those gay and lesbian relationships and the others, those people have found safety in that same-sex recognition, because they haven't found that in the world or even in the church.
Yes.
So I just want to put that out there, and that if perhaps God may have even given a whole group of people that we have shunned and we don't accept or agree with, keys that we need potentially.
Really good, Marlene. And I think,
when they come to Christ, trans could mean transfiguration, you know.
Yes, I like that, transfiguration.
Think about that. You know, there's a lot of words that start with transformation, transfiguration, translocation, and they're all part of the Christian message. And perhaps these people have been given a segment of what's been missing in our conversation.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Marlene. Appreciate that. Go ahead, Jennifer.
That's so good. Yeah, I just wanted to speak about, you mentioned about the salvation message, being given a backseat. And I just want to confirm that it is so important. My gosh, because in my life, there's, I'm starting to go through integration, and there are so many parts of me who do not feel worthy of God's love and goodness, and there are so many parts of me who don't believe that God is trustworthy to be good. And so, honestly, I've listened to the simple gospel of the kingdom message more than any other message over the last week. I've practically had it on replay, because there are parts of me that need to know that they are one in Christ, and that all that he is, I've been given. All that he is, I am, because there's so many parts of me that don't believe that yet. So a work in progress. But yeah, I just want to say that's probably the most important thing. Yeah. If not, yes, to share with others, but also to make sure that we're completely believing it in every fiber of our beings.
So good. So good. Thank you, Jennifer. Love that. Daniel, go ahead.
Now that we're on the salvation topic, as you were talking about that, I had another important thought, I believe. I've kind of been wondering with the next stage understandings, what's the message in salvation? We tended to start out with our 4 spiritual laws. You're going to hell and you're separated from God. Well, that's not where we want to start.
Yep.
But wondering, where do we go, to make this clear, all the good news that we're having now. And I'm sure we can dive in with, well, you can go to heaven now, but for a lot of folks that may go way over their head or seem like we're crazy.
Yep.
But your ideas about attunement just really struck a chord there. That salvation is about being attuned to God, and that opens a relationship with him. But I had another thought right behind that as you were saying it. Salvation is welcoming God into your life as your friend, your partner, and your lover.
Yeah. It's good, Daniel. I love that. And definitely things we can continue to pursue. But I believe the message of the power and love of God, the world needs to know, and we need to know. All parts of us, as Jennifer was saying, need to know. And so there's a lot of really good evangelism that can happen. And I have been turned off by that word because of the way it's been used, but we get to reframe it now from a different perspective of the love and power of God. And so it becomes joyful. So good. Thank you. Mimi, go ahead.
I'll try to make this quick because of time. I wanted to, first of all, Mazel Tov, Daniel, on your gig. I'm so happy to hear about that. And this is kind of in response to some things that Larry said. and I'll just read what I wrote down because it's easier for me that way. I think we're learning to see what I call metadimensionally, which includes all the dimensions, 3-dimensional, and the stuff that we sort of, people say we can't see, but a lot of us can see actually.
Mhm.
And, you know, to use a cliche example, it's like the back of a tapestry, one side, or a tapestry where one side looks like a mess and chaotic, but the side is just beautiful and gorgeous. What we perceive as being the mess and chaos is actually needed to create what's gorgeous on the other side.
Yes.
And so I think, at least for me, I can speak only for me, but also what I hear, we're learning to see that, I don't know what black pill means. I know what red pill and blue pill means, but that, how do I say this? I'm learning more how to take a step back and not look at this was bad, this was good.
Mm-hmm.
This was of God, this was not of God. Just like the back of the tapestry looks totally a mess and jumbled, but without it, you can't have the beauty of the image on the other side, that it all is needed.
Mm-hmm.
So we're learning to see in a different way, where even the things that seem to be bad, evil, horrific, can be springboards or part of the process for creating what's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And in the family's hands,
Mm-hmm.
and what I call the production center of life, of God, the womb of God. Somebody said it, God always wins.
Yep.
God always wins life. We can take whatever we've got and say, here, here.
Yes.
I don't know what to do with this mess. And the family of God's just like, oh, and they create something beautiful. I have something more to say about the trans thing, but I'm going to wait till the Afterburner group because it's a little bit, it's controversial and provocative. I'm not sure I want to say it in a public, because this goes out on Facebook, I know, and I don't know if I'm ready to state that, but thanks for listening.
Thank you,
Love you
Mimi.
guys.
And Nikki's going to go, and then Sheila, and then we'll close.
Hey, so as we've just kind of been sitting here, I had kind of an aha moment about the woman at the well story, and it was kind of totally reframed for me in light of your teaching, Adina. So I was sitting here and I was thinking about the woman at the well and how Jesus attuned to her.
Yeah.
And I think it's just such a beautiful picture of everything that Adina's teaching. The woman at the well, she'd been married like 4 or 5 times. And it wasn't actually because she divorced or got rid of her husbands. She didn't have that right in that culture. It's because she was unloved and rejected and pushed aside. And Jesus meets her at the well, which obviously in that culture was extremely controversial, talking to a woman and a Samaritan. And he's basically shows her, I see you. I see what you've been through. I see you. And in that encounter, what I see happening now after Adina talking is that her relational circuits, because she had been hiding from the other people in her village by going to the well at a different time of day than everybody else and all the women of her time. And so she was in hiding. And after her encounter with Jesus, relational circuits turn on. And what does she do? She runs back to the village and says, I've met the man who told me everything there is to know about me, and I've met the Messiah. And so I just see that as a beautiful picture of those relational circuits having been closed from trauma.
Yeah.
But then after one encounter with Jesus and after being seen by him, such a beautiful picture of that being restored in her. And then the rest of her village coming to encounter Jesus through that. So just wanted to share that.
I love that. Thank you, Nikki. So very good. And that's really the heart of it all. So good. All right. Sheila, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to make a comment about another thing that was really emphasized to me this morning, through all this, And that was the understanding that control creates separation.
Yes.
And that even the idea of God being in, quote, control, end quote, isn't really quite right. It's more like what he's showing me is like he's making an offering. And if we accept, then balance is maintained.
Yes.
And salvation can continue. But it can't if one party or the other is being forced.
Yes.
So anyway, I just thought that like energetically and all the things that we're learning, that continuing to see that balance of offering and accepting, of giving and taking, that we have to find a balance. And a lot of times I think when we're unhappy and frustrated, it's because we've lost that.
Yes.
And trying to asking Father, how do I restore that? I'm going to try it this week, may be a good window to step into where we lost the balance.
Yes.
So I just like that.
Beautiful, Sheila. I love that. And it is so true that where there is any level of control, our relational circuits are going to be closed. And, and that's the challenge, again, with a lot of things in the church. And it's not to put down the church because we are the church. But just to be aware of, in our brokenness, we have reproduced ourselves, our own brokenness, instead of the living Christ coming through to one another. And so wherever we can, we get to shift that trend as we're being attuned to God and as we attune to one another. So awesome time. Thank you so much. We're going to end there and we'll continue our series next week, Image Bearers. It's going to be on rulership, which is an interesting thing, Sheila, with what you just brought out, because rulership often feels like control. And so, going off of what we learned today is how do we step into rulership in a way that gives life and doesn't turn off those relational circuits. So looking forward to seeing you all then. If you're on Zoom, stay on with John and Evelyn for the after time, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
We are so glad you joined our global family gathering today.
And we hope that you'll become a part of this global family and join us again next week.
Feel free to stay on Zoom now with John and Evelyn and to go deep building relationships.
And don't forget to like this broadcast and to share it with one or two people.
Blessings and have an awesome week.